Good afternoon, Bay Nation. Welcome to another episode of Fantasy Bay. I'm your host, Mike Williams, and here's my co-host, Jeffrey.
Good afternoon, Bay Nation.
Today, we're going to be going over the Week 11 game previews. And before we get into those games, I want to tell you that 4 teams are on a bye this week. The Giants, Bears, 49ers, and Bills. If you forget, all 4 teams are always up here. All right, so I'm just going to dive right in. Jeffrey, let's get it started.
I'm on it, sir. Here we go.
All right, in this matchup, we're going to go over the Falcons versus Saints. Jeffrey, give me the rundown.
The Atlanta Falcons are traveling to New Orleans to face the Saints. The spread is -4.5 Saints. Weather does not factor into this game because the Saints play in a dome. There are a few injuries to discuss. For the Falcons, wide receiver, Calvin Ridley, is questionable due to a foot injury. For the Saints, Drew Brees was seriously injured in the last game. He has fractured ribs and a collapsed lung. He will miss some time. Taysom Hill will be the starting quarterback.
Yes, that is right. Thank you, Jeffrey. Taysom Hill will be the starting quarterback. Me and the rest of the industry definitely thought Jameis Winston would go in and get the start, but I guess they kept Taysom Hill around for a reason. You know what? Let's start with those Saints because they are the home team, and we're already talking about Taysom Hill. For those of you who do not know, Taysom Hill is a tight end that also plays quarterback. He does some wildcat stuff. He does a lot of running. If you've never seen him throw a ball, don't be surprised. He only does it like once or twice a game. But he's been playing the dual tight end quarterback role for a little bit now, and he's been with the Saints for a few years. That being said, I don't think you can start him as a quarterback. Well, I think you can, but he's more of a quarterback too. He's not a must start. But as a tight end, he is a must start. And on other platforms, he may not be available as tight end and quarterback. But on ESPN, he's available as a tight end and a quarterback. Play him at tight end for sure, hands down. If he's available in your league, grab him right now. Taysom Hill in the tight end position is a cheat code this week. Next, we have the wide receiver position. Michael Thomas has not been playing like the normal Michael Thomas that we're used to, but he's Michael Thomas. You're going to fire him up anyways. Let's be real. Let's be honest. That being said, I'm not trying to start up Emmanuel Sanders just because I'm not quite sure what Taysom Hill is going to do. Next, we have the running back position. You're going to start Alvin Kamara because he's an absolute beast. But surprisingly, the Falcons are pretty good at defending the running back. So, that has nothing to do with Alvin Kamara because he's an absolute beast. But I would keep Latavius Murray on your bench. Next, moving on to the tight end position, I think you could play Jared Cook. He should be a little closer to the line of scrimmage, which will help Taysom Hill. Next, we have the defense. You can play the defense against Atlanta, but I do think that Atlanta's offense is pretty solid, so I'm not rushing out to play them, but they should be able to get a couple turnovers. And you're going to play Will Lutz because Saints kicker's a beast. All right, moving over to Atlanta. Matt Ryan. I think that you fire up Matt Ryan this week, have him as a quarterback 1. He could be getting back Calvin Ridley this week, but even if he doesn't, as long as he has Julio Jones, you can start Matt Ryan. Next, Julio Jones, fire him up. He's an absolute beast. And if Calvin Ridley does play, I play him. Calvin Ridley is extremely talented, and if he's going to be on the field, I think that he's worth a play. All right, moving on to the running back position. Todd Gurley has been touchdown dependent this year, but he's been getting it done. That being said, this is a tough matchup for him. The Saints are very good against the running back. I still think you can start him as a running back too because the landscape for running back is pretty difficult. But I'm not expecting high totals for him. So running back 2 because he's kind of got to be due to necessity. All right, moving on. Tight end, I think you start Hayden Hurst and no defense. And you can definitely start the kicker. The kicker's an absolute beast. All right, time to pick this game. It's a 4.5 point spread. I'm going to take Atlanta on this one. No Drew Brees, no Jameis Winston. They're starting Taysom Hill. Anytime you start somebody that isn't used to playing as a starting quarterback, there's always a couple mistakes. I'm going to take Atlanta to keep it within a field goal for sure. All right, Jeffrey, on to the next one. In this matchup, we'll be talking about Washington versus the Bengals. All right, Jeffrey, give me the rundown.
The Cincinnati Bengals are traveling to Washington to face the Washington football team. The spread is -1.5 Washington. Weather should not be an issue in this game. It should be a sunny day with low winds. There is one major injury to discuss. For the Bengals, running back, Joe Mixon, has been placed on injured reserve due to a foot injury. He will be out at least 3 games.
3 games? He's already been out 3 games. Now he's going to be out 3 more games? Are you kidding me? Ugh. The pain. It feels me here. It's messing with my lineups, guys. I hope he gets better. He's going to be on IR. Hopefully you have Giovanni Bernard. He'll be viable for at least another 3 games. And who's to say they even bring Joe Mixon back? This is a lost season at this point for the Bengals. They're like 2-7. Terrible. So, there's a chance that Joe Mixon doesn't even play again this year. And that would be very unfortunate. But that would make Giovanni Bernard even more viable. That being said, Washington's a home team, so we're going to start with them. So, starting at the top, we're not starting Alex Smith. It's a great story, but we're not starting him. Next, wide receiver position, the only one I'm trying to start, Terry McLaurin, because he's an absolute beast. Next, running back position, we have Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick. J.D. McKissick is getting a ton of targets, and those targets are turning into reception, so I think you can fire him up as a running back 2. Antonio Gibson, I have him as a low-end running back 1. Antonio Gibson is extremely talented, and I'm looking for them to get him the ball a little bit more. Next, moving on to the tight end position. Logan Thomas. This is a terrible tight end landscape, and I think Logan Thomas could be a solid start for you. Next, we have the Washington defense. I think you can play that defense against the Bengals. They're clearly not winning games for a reason. Next, we have the kicker. No, thank you. All right, moving on to the Bengals. Starting at the top, Joe Burrow. I think that Joe Burrow is not a top 12 start, but I do think he's startable. I actually have to start him in one of my leagues. Washington's defense is solid, but I do think that Joe Burrow can get some done with his legs as well as throw a couple touchdowns. Next, we have the wide receiver position. AJ Green has been terrible this year. He's had 2 solid games, but other than that, he's been pretty bad, and Washington is extremely good against the wide receiver position. They're literally the 2nd in the league against the wide receiver on the season. In the last 5 games, they're the 1st. Absolute beast against the wide receivers. T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, I think you can start them both. I have them both as wide receiver 2 flex plays, but limit your expectations. I know that it's Washington, and they're probably not as good as you say they are, Mike, but they are. Somehow they are good at defending the wide receiver. Just in that heads up. All right, next we have the running back position, and with Joe Mixon out, Giovanni Bernard's going to slide in there. I think you can start him up as a running back too. Next, we have the tight end position. No defense, no kicker. Sure. Kicker should be all right in this game. All right. I think that's going to do it for this one. Time to pick it. Like Jeffrey said, 1.5 point favorites. Washington football team. I think the Bengals actually take this one. The kids got to win a couple games, right? I think that the Bengals offense is clicking on all cylinders so they don't have Joe Mixon, but I do think that they're moving the ball and they should be able to keep it close. Alex Smith hasn't thrown a touchdown. He's thrown like 300 plus yards a game, but he's not throwing touchdowns. I think the touchdowns are going to come on the ground, but I also think that the Bengals should be able to get something done as well. So I have the Bengals taking this game by 1.5. All right, I think that's going to do it for this one. On to the next one. In this matchup, we'll be going over the Eagles versus the Browns. Let's get it started. Jeffrey, give me the rundown.
The Philadelphia Eagles are traveling to Cleveland to face the Browns. The spread is -3.5 Browns. My satellites show that there is over a 70% chance of rain. There will also be lightning which could cause delays. The wind is projected to only be 5 miles per hour. There are no major injuries in this game.
Solid. Very solid. Other than the fact that rain and lightning again. The Browns had to deal with this last week. It was an absolutely horrific game. Just so much rain that you really couldn't do much. Also, the winds were crazy hot. The wind should be pretty low in this one, so the rain shouldn't affect them as much as it did last week. Let's get it started. We're going to start with the home team, the Browns, because they're the home team. All right, starting at the top, I'm not starting Baker Mayfield. No, thank you. Hard pass. Next, wide receivers. The only wide receiver I'm even thinking about starting at this point in time is going to be Jarvis Landry, and I have him as a flex play. Next, we have the running back position, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. They're both very talented. Kareem Hunt is a running back 1 and Nick Chubb's a running back 2. Fire them both up if you got them. Next, we're going to talk about the tight end position, Austin Hooper. Tight end position is a wasteland. I think you start Austin Hooper because he'll get targets and he counts as a tight end. I think that you could play the Browns defense against the Eagles. Fire them up. Next, we have the kicker. No, thank you. All right. Moving on to the Eagles, starting at the top, Carson Wentz. I think you can fire him up in this matchup. I have him as a low-end quarterback 1. Browns aren't really too scary, and he's finally starting to get some weapons back. Awesome. You can start Travis Fulgham and Jalen Reagor. Other than that, benching everybody over there. Tight end position, I have Dallas Goedert as a usable tight end, so fire him up. Next, we have the Eagles defense. I think you could play them as well. They're going to put some pressure on the quarterback, and I think that's going to be great for this matchup. Especially in a wet game, I definitely think we can see a couple fumbles, maybe a few picks. Baker Mayfield's pretty reckless. Next, we're moving on to the kicker. I prefer not to play him, but I think that you can play him. All right, that's going to do it for this one. Now it's time to pick this game. Like Jeffrey said, a 3.5-point spread. With a lot of rain. This could be a closer one because of all the rain. So I'm gonna pick the Eagles. I'm not gonna lie to you, I actually just changed it last minute. I came into this thinking that the Browns would win, but you know, all that rain, you never know with the turnover situation. So I'm gonna go with the Eagles on this one. In this matchup, we'll be going over the Lions versus the Panthers. Jeffrey, give me the rundown for this one.
The Detroit Lions are traveling to Carolina to face the Panthers. The spread is -1.5 Panthers. Weather should not be an issue in this game. It should be a sunny day with low winds. There are a few major injuries to discuss. For the Panthers, running back, Christian McCaffrey, is going to be out in this game, due to a shoulder injury. Quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, is questionable with a knee injury. For the Lions, running back, DeAndre Swift, is out with a concussion. Wide receivers, Kenny Golladay and Danny Amendola, are out with hip injuries. Quarterback, Matthew Stafford, has a partial tear on the thumb of his throwing hand. He is still expected to play.
Come on, Jeffrey. That's a lot of injuries, man. That's crazy. Putting you to work on this one. This one's going to be up in the air, guys, but I'm going to try to get us through it. Start with the home team, Carolina. If Teddy Bridgewater plays, we're going to play it according to normal. You're going to start your wide receivers. You're going to obviously not starting Teddy Bridgewater anyways. But if Teddy Bridgewater's out, I think that we have to downgrade everyone just a little bit. But I'll get into that in a second. So Teddy Bridgewater in or out, you're still not playing the quarterback position. Next, wide receiver. With Teddy Bridgewater in, I think DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson are both wide receiver 2s, but if Teddy Bridgewater's out, I think it lowers them to low-end wide receiver 2 flex plays. Because the Lions aren't pushovers against the wide receiver. They're 11th best on the year. All right, moving on to the running back position, you're going to start Mike Davis because it's kind of what you do when Christian McCaffrey's out. That being said, Mike Davis has come back to earth a little bit. But the Lions are absolutely terrible against the running back. And if Teddy Bridgewater is out, I think that they increase the amount of times that they're going to run the ball, and that increases Mike Davis's value. So fire him up for sure. He's a low-end running back 1. Next, we have the tight end position. No, thank you. Defense, no. Kicker, no. Actually, you can fire up the kicker. Next, we have the Lions. Starting at the top, Matthew Stafford is just tough. He is a tough man. Playing with an injured hand like that, he's got a tear in his thumb. Not only that, his throwing thumb, but, you know, he's played through worse. He had a fractured back last year and played through it. He's an absolute beast. Anyways, I'm I don't think that Matthew Stafford's a great start this week, especially the fact that he's missing some of his receiving options. But worst came to worst, there's worse quarterbacks out there that you could be starting. Next, we have the wide receiver position. Like Jeffrey said, there is no Kenny Golladay and no Danny Amendola. So if Marvin Jones plays, I think that he is going to be a viable option, and you can fire him up as a wide receiver too. Next, we have the running back position. DeAndre Swift has been looking really good these last couple of weeks, but unfortunately, he's going to be out in this game. So I think that that's going to move up Adrian Peterson, somehow still in the league. Love it. I'm not huge on Kerryon Johnson, but I think that he moves up a little bit as well. The running back I want out of this backfield, if you want to say we want one, is Adrian Peterson. Next, we have the tight end position. I think you can still fire up TJ Hawkinson, and no to the defense, yes to the kicker. All right, I think that's going to do it for this one. Time to pick this game. 1.5 point favorites, Carolina. Not knowing if Teddy Bridgewater is going to play makes me a little nervous. I think that Matthew Stafford can win it. It's going to be a close one, though, guys. A lot of injuries in this one, a lot of variables, but I do think that the Lions can pull it out. All right, I think that's going to do it for this one. On to the next one. Up next, we have the Ravens versus the Titans. Jeffrey, give me the rundown.
The Tennessee Titans are traveling to Baltimore to face the Ravens. The spread is -6.5 Ravens. Weather should not be an issue in this game. There is one major injury to discuss. For the Ravens, running back Mark Ingram is questionable in this game due to an ankle injury.
That's fine. I mean, Mark Ingram wasn't really viable in your lineup anyways. Starting with the home team. Lamar Jackson has not been as expected, but he is still a starting quarterback, so fire him up. Next, we'll go on to the wide receiver position. Marquise Brown has only been in the top 24 one time this year, and he is not reliable. I'm not starting him. Next. Running back position, I don't think that any of these people can be relied upon as long as Mark Ingram plays. If Mark Ingram sits, I think that you can play J.K. Dobbins and maybe some Gus Edwards to get a touchdown upside. But really, I'm not trying to start any of them. It doesn't seem like their running game is as good as it was last year. And it's very unfortunate considering they just picked up J.K. Dobbins. Next, we have the tight end position. Mark Andrews. You fire him up because there's only like 3 viable tight ends in the league, and Mark Andrews can always fall into the end zone. Fire up their defense because they're absolute beasts. Fire up Justin Tucker, the kicker, because one of the best kickers in the league. Next, we're going over to the Tennessee Titans. Starting at the top, Ryan Tannehill. If you can sit him, I would. This is not a good matchup against the Ravens, so if you can bench him, you should. Next, we have the wide receiver position. A.J. Brown is an absolute beast. You fire him up every single week. Yes, you're going to get a dud here and there because he's a big play waiting to happen, and sometimes he doesn't hit the big play, but you fire him up because he's an absolute beast. Next, we have Corey Davis. I'm not playing Corey Davis in this one. There are certain matchups where you can play Corey Davis where they're advantageous to the wide receiver position. The Ravens are not that matchup, so leave Corey Davis on your bench. Next, we have the running back position. Everyone's starting Derrick Henry because he's a monster. Next, we're going to the tight end position, and Jonnu Smith has gone from every week must-start tight end to touchdown-dependent tight end. He's still going to be in the top 12 of tight ends because he gets targeted. But I do think that there are definitely better tight ends out there, unfortunately. Hate to see it. Jonnu Smith was big for me this year, and I'm disappointed that he is now going back into the shadows. All right, next we have the defense. No thank you. Kicker, no. All right, time to pick this game. 6.5 point spreads. Ravens, 6.5 seems to be a lot of points. Yes, they're trying to get some revenge against the Titans because this is a rematch of the playoffs of last year, but I still think the Titans don't get smashed. They're trying to make it seem like it's going to be a full touchdown. I think it's going to be a little closer than that. All right, I think that's going to do it for this one. On to the next one. All right, up next, we have the Patriots versus the Texans. Jeffrey, give me the rundown.
The New England Patriots are traveling to Houston to face the Texans. The spread is -2.5 Patriots. Weather should not be an issue in this game. In regards to injuries, For the Texans, running back, David Johnson, is on injured reserve for the next 2 games. For the Patriots, Sony Michel, is now off of injured reserve and is expected to play.
That is intriguing. If Sony Michel actually ends up playing, this could hurt Damian Harris. I don't think you're playing Sony Michel in this matchup, but Damian Harris has been getting a majority of the running back work, so that would affect him. We'll get to that in a second, but we're going to start off with the home team, the Texans. Starting at the top. Deshaun Watson's a beast. You play him every week. This isn't a great matchup, but I do think that you can play him in this one. I like his receivers as well. Moving on to them now. Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks, I think, are both playable. That being said, the Patriots like to shut down your number 1 option, and that's going to be Will Fuller. He's a down-the-field threat and does not play well against the Patriots. So I would downgrade Will Fuller a little bit, but I think Brandon Cooks should still be fine and have a solid game in this one. Next, we have the running back position. Like Jeffrey said, David Johnson is still on IR, and he will be for at least another 2 weeks. So, Duke Johnson is taking over the mantle, and fire him up because he's going to get a majority of the work in this game. So, I definitely think that you could play him too as a running back too. Next, we have the tight end position. Nope. Defense. Nope. Kicker. Nope. All right, moving on to the New England Patriots. Cam Newton, by hook or by crook, seems to be able to get it done. He is not throwing for very many yards and somehow still ending up in the top 12. Towards the bottom of the top 12, but top 12 nonetheless. So if you're desperate, fire up some Cam Newton. I think that he'll get enough done to be a number 12 or 11 quarterback on the week. Next, we have the wide receiver position. The only one I'm looking to start is Jacoby Myers, and he is going to be a flex play. That being said, Texans are terrible against pretty much everybody. So I think that Jacoby Myers should have a fine game. Next, we have the running back position, and like Jeffrey was saying earlier, Damian Harris has been getting a vast majority of the work, but Sony Michel is going to be coming back. So I think that makes it a little more tricky for this game. I do think you still start Damian Harris, but he's more of a flex play for me this week, and Rex Burkhead also could be started as a flex play. I'm not quite sure how involved Sony Michel is going to be in this game plan. Next, we have the tight end position. No thank you. Defense, sure. And kicker, no thank you. All right, time to pick this game. 2.5 point spread for the Patriots. And I think I'm picking the Patriots because of the defense. I'm not super confident about this one, I'm not going to lie, but they did beat the Ravens last week, which is pretty solid. I do like that Cam Newton's going to be running the ball. I like Deshaun Watson as well, but I think that the Patriots defense is just really solid, and the Houston Texans defense is absolutely awful, so Cam should be able to move the offense down the field. All right, I think that's going to do it for this one. On to the next one. Up next, we have the Steelers versus Jaguars. Jeffrey, give me the rundown.
The Pittsburgh Steelers are traveling to Jacksonville to face the Jaguars. The spread is -9.5 Steelers. Weather should not be an issue in this game. There is one major injury to discuss. For the Jaguars, quarterback, Gardner Minshew, is out for this game with a thumb injury. Jake Luton will be the starting quarterback.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Alright, let's start with those Jaguars. Jake Luton. Like Jeffrey said, he will be the starting quarterback for this week, and somebody pray for Jake Luton because this pass rush is going to be all over him. It's going to be a problem. So, needless to say, you're not starting Jake Luton. Next, moving on to the wide receiver position. DJ Chark. This is not a good matchup for him, but Jake Luton has been looking for him, and he's been looking for him deep. And one of the places you can hit the Steelers are deep passes. So, if DJ Chark and Jake Luton can hit on a deep pass, I think that he should have a fine day. If you don't think that he's going to hit on that deep pass and he's only going to get a few chances, he may not have a good day. So set your lineup accordingly. Next, we have the running back position. Though this is a terrible matchup for James Robinson, you still fire up James Robinson. He's been an absolute beast all year. You play him every week. Next, you have the tight end position. No. Defense, no. Kicker, no. Moving on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we're starting pretty much everybody that's relevant here. You're starting Big Ben because he has 3 amazing wide receivers. You're starting all 3 of those wide receivers, and if you somehow have been living under a rock and don't know who they are, Juju Smith-Schuster, Deontay Johnson, and Chase Claypool. All 3 of those start worthy, for sure. Next, we have the running back position. You're starting James Conner. Even though James Conner has not been the running back one that you would have liked at the beginning of the year, he's still playing good enough to be in your lineup. Next, we have the tight end. Eric Ebron's been playing pretty solid and is a threat towards the end zone. You're playing the defense. You're playing the kicker. Pretty much everybody, like I said. And it's a 9.5-point spread for the Steelers. And I'm going to take those Steelers because I see a pick 6 in their future, and that's going to put them over the top. They're winning by 9.5 on this one. All right, I think that's going to do it for this. On to the next one. Up next, we have the Dolphins versus the Broncos. Jeffrey, give me the rundown.
The Miami Dolphins are traveling to Denver to face the Broncos. The spread is -3.5 Dolphins. Weather should not be an issue in this game. In regards to injuries, for the Dolphins, running back, Matt Breida, is questionable for this game, due to a hamstring injury. For the Broncos, quarterback, Drew Lock, is questionable to play with a rib injury. Running backs, Melvin Gordon, and Philip Lindsay, are questionable for this game but are projected to play.
Yikes. That's a lot of injuries to get into, Jeffrey. Thank you. We're going to start with the Broncos because they're the home team. Starting at the top, Drew Lock. I wasn't starting Drew Lock anyways, but if he's not in, that could be slightly worse for the wide receiver options. But, I mean, the Drew Lock and the backups were pretty meh to start off with. So we weren't starting them anyways. Next, moving on to the wide receiver position. I don't think Drew Lock really truly affects whether or not I'd play either of them. I think that they're both low-end flex plays. They have not been really playing too well. They've had a game or two here or there, and by they, I mean Jerry Jeudy and Tim Patrick. They've had a game or two here and there where they played okay, but for the most part, they've been pretty meh. And the Miami Dolphins defense has been really good, so it's not like this is a plus matchup. So if you don't have to play them, I really wouldn't play them. Next, we have the running back position. I'm also not trying to play Philip Lindsay or Melvin Gordon. They've both been playing pretty poorly, and like I said, not a good matchup. So I have Melvin Gordon as a mid-tier flex play and Philip Lindsay right below that, but I'm really not excited to start either of them. I don't think that their opportunity is going to be as good as people may be thinking it is. So I'm going to leave them on the bench. Next, we're going to the tight end position and Noah Fant. Noah Fant hasn't been playing great as of yet. I think he's still getting over an injury, and this is still not a good matchup. But the tight end landscape is terrible, so fire up your Noah Fants. Next, we have the defense. No, thank you. Kicker. Actually, you can start the kicker. I'm feeling like he's going to get some field goals. Next, we have the Dolphins, and Tua is playable. He's not the best play of the week, but I do think if you're in a pinch, you can play Tua. He'll get a little bit done with his legs, and the Broncos defense does not scare me. Next, moving on to the wide receiver position, the only person I'm looking to start is Devontae Parker, and that's as a flex play. Next, we're going to the running back position, and like Jeffrey kindly pointed out, Matt Breida is questionable. Even if he plays, I don't know if I play him, but I do think you can play Salvon Ahmed. He looked great last week, and he looks like he's getting to work, so fire him up. Next, we have the tight end. Like I've been saying all day, the tight end position's really meh up and down, so if you're desperate enough, you can play Mike Gesicki. Next, we have the defense. I'm firing up that Miami defense, especially with Drew Lock injured and the running backs a little banged up. I think that the Miami defense is going to be a solid play. And I think that's going to do it for this matchup. Time to pick this game. Miami is 3.5-point favorites, and I'm actually going to pick them. Some people may not know this. Miami has been on fire defensively. They have been absolutely amazing, and this offense does not scare me in the least a bit. So fire up your Miami defense. All right, I think that's going to do it for this one. On to the next one. In this matchup, we have the Jets versus the Chargers. Jeffrey, give me the rundown.
The New York Jets are traveling to Los Angeles to face the Chargers. The spread is -8.5 Chargers. Weather should not be an issue in this game. In regards to injuries, For the Chargers, running backs, Austin Eckler is still on injured reserve but he is getting close to a return. For the Jets, quarterback, Sam Darnold, is out in this game with a shoulder injury.
Yikes, Sam Darnold out with a shoulder injury, and that is good news to hear that Austin Eckler is nearing a return. That's some good information, especially this close to the trade deadline. All right, let's get it started with the home team. Go Chargers, go! It's a little Arnold Schwarzenegger impression. Very terrible. Enjoy it. So we're going to start with the Chargers, starting at the top. Justin Herbert has been playing out of his mind. You start him every week. He's a beast. Also, the Jets suck. Next, wide receiver position. Every week you're going to start Keenan Allen, and I also think that you can start Mike Williams in this matchup. Next, we're moving on to the running back position, and Joshua Kelly is being moved to the side for Kalen Ballage. Kalen Ballage is a solid start this week. Fire him up. The Jets don't scare me. They're not the worst against the run, but I do think that Kalen Ballage should be getting the amount of touches he needs to have a good game. Next, we have the tight end position, and tight end landscape is terrible. So Hunter Henry, I think you can fire him up. Next, we have the Chargers defense, one of the best defenses on the week. Jets suck. They're going to throw at least a pick or two. Next, we have the kicker, and you can start the kicker against the Jets. All right, moving on to the Jets, there's only a couple of players that we're going to talk about. Like Jeffrey said, Sam Darnold's not going to be in this one. So, Joe Flacco's going to step in. We're not starting Joe Flacco. Wide receivers. Jamison Crowder, I actually think is a solid start. He's a wide receiver 2 for me, and people aren't going to be talking about him. But Rashad Perriman as a low-end flex play. I liked the involvement he had last week. Next, we're going to go to the running back position, and apparently, the Jets are going to give LaMichael Pirine an opportunity to be the lead back, the feature back, the running back 1 for the Jets. Now, that's exciting only in the sense that he's a starting running back now. I think that you can play LaMichael Pirine, and he should give you low-end running back 2 return. And I think that's pretty solid for the running back landscape. And out of nowhere, too. So, fire him up. Next, we have the tight end position. No. Defense, no. Kicker, no. All right, time to pick this game. 8.5 point spread. Chargers way? Oh, it's hard not to pick the Chargers on this one. But I think I got to go with the Jets. I think that the Jets are going to keep it within a touchdown. I think that the Jets with Joe Flacco can sling it around a little bit. So, I got to go with the Jets on this one. Doesn't feel good, but, go green. On to the next one. Up next, we have the Cowboys versus the Vikings. Jeffrey, give me the rundown.
The Dallas Cowboys are traveling to Minnesota to face the Vikings. The spread is -7.5 Vikings. Weather does not factor into this game because the Vikings play in a dome. In regards to injuries, for the Vikings, tight end, Irv Smith, is questionable with a groin injury. For the Cowboys, quarterback, Andy Dalton, is out of concussion protocol and activated from the reserve COVID-19 list. He is expected to play.
Thank you for that, Jeffrey. That's good to know that he's going to play. Andy Dalton, in their current situation, is kind of the best thing they can ask for. The other backups, they're not cutting it. At least we know Andy Dalton is competent, and he tends to like to throw it to Amari Cooper. So, we're going to start with the home team, the Vikings. Starting at the top, Kirk Cousins. I actually think that Kirk Cousins is playable in this matchup. I don't think he's a top 12 play or anything, but I think if you're desperate at quarterback, I think Kirk Cousins could actually get the job done. Cowboys are terrible. Absolutely terrible. So I think that Kirk Cousins should be able to maybe throw a touchdown or 2. All right, next, the wide receivers. I think you can start Thielen and Justin Jefferson. I have Thielen as a wide receiver 2 and Justin Jefferson as a high-end flex play. Next, we have Dalvin Cook, and Dalvin Cook's an absolute beast. He's going to be the best running back on the week. He is a monster. Fire him up against the Cowboys. They're terrible. Next, we have the tight end position. Like Jeffrey said, Irv Smith Jr. is kind of dinged up. If he's out, I'm really not trying to start Kyle Rudolph, but I do think that Kyle Rudolph will actually get some attention just because that's how it works with Kyle Rudolph. Next, we have the defense. In desperate times calls for desperate measures. The Cowboys are terrible. Defense has to be playing all right. So I think that you can play them this week. Next, we have the kicker, and I'm not a fan. On to the next one. Going to the Cowboys. We're not starting Andy Dalton. Amari Cooper, I think, is a flex play with upside, possibly to being a wide receiver 2. CeeDee Lamb is barely a flex play just because he could always get a nice pass into the end zone. And those are the only receivers I'm even thinking about. Michael Gallup shouldn't even be on your team anymore. Next, we have the running back position. He's a little dinged up with the hamstring injury, but I do think that you can start Ezekiel Elliott as a running back too. Next, we have the tight end position. Dalton Schultz is a desperation play. Next, we have defense, no. Kicker, no. All right, time to pick this game. 7.5 point favorites, the Vikings. I'm going to actually have to go with them. They beat Green Bay by 6 points. I think that they could take out the Cowboys by more than that. And also, the Cowboys are terrible. And I think that if the Cowboys do end up scoring points, Kirk Cousins is just going to throw the ball more and get more touchdowns. And Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison to run it down their throats. All right, I think that's going to do it for this one. On to the next one. Up next, we have the Colts versus the Packers. Jeffrey, give me the rundown.
The Green Bay Packers are traveling to Indianapolis to face the Colts. The spread is -2.5 Colts. Weather does not factor into this game because the Colts play in a dome. In regards to injuries, for the Packers, wide receiver Davante Adams is questionable for this game with an ankle injury. Head coach Matt LaFleur said Davante Adams, quote, should be good to go. Alan Lazard is off of injured reserve and questionable for this game.
Very solid. Thank you, Jeffrey. I'm very pleased to hear Matt LaFleur thinks that Davante Adams should play this game. That's excellent. We're going to start off with the home team. The Colts, the favored team in this matchup. Genuinely surprised. Starting at the top, nobody's starting Phillip Rivers. Let's be real, let's be honest. On to the next. Wide receiver, T.Y. Hilton is not useful for fantasy. And Michael Pittman Jr., I actually have as a low-end flex play this week, especially because Jair Alexander for the Green Bay Packers, cornerback, should be starting this week. And if he does, he's probably going to lock down Michael Pittman Jr. Now, that being said, there's a chance that Jair Alexander goes over to T.Y. Hilton for some crazy reason, like he's still the number 1. But I'm not assuming that. Also, the secondary for the secondary for Green Bay is actually pretty good in general. Next, moving on to the running back position. It is a mess. So you have this year's draft pick, Jonathan Taylor, barely getting any touches. Jordan Wilkins looked like he was going to be the guy, and then out of nowhere, they gave it to Nyheim Hines, and he had the hot hand. It was a beast last week and a couple weeks previously. So, who do you play? Well, I think Nyheim Hines is a solid flex play in general. I think he's going to get some targets, which means he's going to be viable. Jordan Wilkins, I'm not really trying to play because if they want his skill set, they'll probably end up just going to Jonathan Taylor. And I think that you can start Jonathan Taylor, but I have him as a flex play because he makes me nervous. Anytime you can get your job taken just because somebody has the hot hand, that's not a good look. He had 5 points last week in a full PPR. That's terrible. So, Jonathan Taylor makes me nervous. Next, on to the tight end position. I'm not trying to mess with any of them. Then defense. I don't like playing defenses against Green Bay. They have a great defense. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm not trying to play them against Green Bay. Next, we have the kicker, and I actually think you can play the kicker because this should be a nice back and forth game going on here. Next, moving on to Green Bay Packers, and I'm going under the assumption that Davante Adams plays. Aaron Rodgers, you play him. Yes, the Colts defense is fired. Doesn't matter. Davante Adams plays. You play Aaron Rodgers. Next, we have the wide receiver position. Davante Adams, obviously, he plays. You start him. MVS is a dart throw, and I don't want to dart throw in a game with the Colts. The Colts actually are very good defensively. And Alan Lazard is the same thing. I don't really want to throw that dart in this game. Next, we have, that being said, you should totally pick him up. Next, we have the running back position. Aaron Jones is an absolute start, but Jamal Adams might be a bench. Even though Jamal Adams does get some work, I don't think that going up against a great defense is the way I want to get my secondary running back. some touches. So I'm not going to be playing him this week. Actually, I should preference this. If Devontae Adams is out, you can play Jamal Williams because they'll need to run it more. And you can play Robert Tonyan because they will need to throw it to somebody else. So I think that Robert Tonyan gets more involved if Devontae Adams is out. But I'm assuming that he's going to play. Next, Packers defense. I don't think I want to play them, but I think you can play them against the Colts because the Colts aren't a great offense. They're mediocre. Next, we have the kicker. You'd always start the Green Bay Packers kicker. All right, time to pick this game. 2.5-point favorites Colts. Man, how times have changed. It's crazy. I think I'm going to have to go with Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers. Come on, Aaron. You're underdogs in this one, bro. Assuming that Devontae Adams plays, Green Bay all day. All right, that's going to do it for this one. On to the next one. In this matchup, we're going to go over the Raiders versus the Chiefs. Jeffrey, give me the rundown.
The Kansas City Chiefs are traveling to Las Vegas to face the Raiders. The spread is -6.5 Chiefs. Weather does not factor into this game because the Raiders play in a dome. There are no major injuries in this game.
Yes, finally, no major injuries. All right, let's start with the home team. I'm going to be real frank and real fast. You're starting 3 people on the Raiders. Josh Jacobs, because he's a beast of a running back. Darren Waller, because he's one of the 2 tight ends you can actually rely upon on a regular basis. And the kicker, because he's been playing great. Everybody else, dart throw. You can play them, but it's a dart throw. Henry Ruggs and Nelson Aguilar, they both could fly into the end zone. There's a chance, but the Chiefs are pretty good against the wide receiver. And on top of that, it's really up and down which one's going to get the work in this matchup. All right, next, moving on to the Chiefs, championship Chiefs. Starting at the top, let's be real, let's be honest. We're starting almost everyone here. Patrick Mahomes, you start. Tyreek Hill, you start. Travis Kelce, you start. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you start. I actually even think that you can start Le'Veon Bell as a flex play in this matchup. Other than that, dart throws. Sammy Watkins could be coming back, so if you really want to call your shot and hit the bullseye, good luck with that one. He could always have, 2 touchdowns and 100 yards because he's Sammy Watkins. He's talented. He just can't predict when he's going to be relevant. Also, I missed off in this. You can start their defense and you can start their kicker. I think that's going to do it for this. Time to pick this game. Picking the Chiefs. 6.5. Give me that. Give me that. I think that the Chiefs are going to avenge their earlier loss in the season against the Raiders. They're not getting it done twice. Sorry. Chiefs are taking them out. All right, I think that's going to do it for this one, Jeffrey. On to the next one. In this matchup, we have the Rams versus the Bucks. And Jeffrey, can you give us the rundown, please?
The Los Angeles Rams are traveling to Tampa Bay to face the Buccaneers. The spread is -3.5 Buccaneers. Weather should not be an issue in this game. There are no major injuries in this game.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jeffrey. All right, let's start with the Bucks because they're the home team. Tom Brady. I actually think you can start Tom Brady even though this Rams defense is for real. They are very, very good across the board. But I do think you can start Tom as a low-end quarterback 1. Next, moving on to the wide receiver position, you can start all 3. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Antonio Brown. I think that Chris Godwin's going to be on top. Mike Evans is always a touchdown threat, and Antonio Brown is still one of the best route runners in the league, so you got to add him up there as a flex play with upside, serious upside. Next, we have the running back position. Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette are both playable. Ronald Jones is probably going to be a running back 2, whereas Leonard Fournette is going to be a flex with upside. It all depends on how the game flow goes. Leonard Fournette should be able to catch a couple more passes just because Ronald Jones seems to either drop them or fumbled them. Next, we have the tight end position. Fire up Rob Gronkowski. He is one of the few tight ends that are getting looks in the red zone. Next, we have the defense. Fire him up. And kicker. Play them too. Next, we're going over to the Rams. Jared Goff, put him on the bench. The Bucs defense is for real. Moving on to the wide receiver position. I think that you can play Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, and Josh Reynolds. Now, Josh Reynolds is a flex play. And I think that Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp are both wide receiver 2s. Now, though it's not a major injury, Cooper Kupp is a little dinged up. He's got a wrist injury that he's kind of hampering on. I think he's going to be fine, but just be aware of that. Next, we're moving on to the running back position. Darrell Henderson is the running back you want, but Malcolm Brown is also going to be involved and possibly stealing a touchdown or two. And Cam Akers, I don't think is going to be relevant now, but I think later on in the year, they may give him some more touches because, I mean, they drafted him for a reason, right? Next, we have the tight end position. I'm not really messing with either of them. Next, we have the defense. I actually do think that you can play the Rams defense against the Bucs. It's not the best play in the world because the Bucs offense is great, but the Rams defense is very, very good, and I think that they can get a couple turnovers. But like I said, not my favorite defense of the week. It's a bad play because the Bucs offense is really good, but worst comes to worst and there's nobody else out there, you can still play the Rams. They're still a solid defense. Next is the kicker. No, thank you. All right, time to pick this game. 3.5 point spread. I'm going to take the Bucs. Yeah, Bucs offense is really good, and our defense is actually also really solid, and I just think that we can take the Rams by more than a field goal. All right, I think that's going to do it for this one. On to the next one. And that's going to conclude all of the Week 11 game previews. Let me know what you think. Who do I have too high? Who do I have too low? What game am I completely off on? Who am I thinking is going to win and they're going to get smashed? Let me know. Comment and like below. Don't forget to subscribe. Good luck this week. We're getting towards the end of the year, closer to the fantasy football playoffs. We got 3 weeks left. This week matters. So do the next 2. You can do this. I believe in you. Peace.